Hey everyone, welcome back to season 2 of You Were Meant for More. I am your host, Francine Ayala, and I am so excited as far as what's coming for 2025. I've recently launched an 8-week program called Ignite Your Confidence, and we are going to focus on the fundamentals of faith, fitness, and finance, because those are the 3 foundations that you need to really break through in this new year. So are you ready to step out into your power and purpose and walk boldly and confidently into your next season? Go ahead and contact me at francineayala.com/men for more. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of You Were Meant for More. I am your host, Francine Ayala, and I am so excited that you are here today to share in our new program, actually. So that one's a little old, that intro's a little old, but we are going to share today what's coming for you. But I definitely want to introduce to you a special guest that I brought in today, and I'm extremely honored to have her on the show. And I'm going to go ahead and quickly introduce who she is to you, and then we're going to bring her on live. All right, so let me read a little bit about Julie Ann Meyer. She is a media consultant, best-selling author, sought-after speaker who helps thought leaders and entrepreneurs build visibility, credibility, and income through streaming television. As co-CEO of Ep13 TV and founder of Arion TV, she leads a platform that reaches millions, giving change makers the tools and stage to grow their impact. Julie Ann's coaching blends strategic media training with real-world monetization, making her a go-to expert for those ready to expand their message and their movement. Why do you think I connected with her? Because she is fabulous. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring her on. Welcome, Julie Ann Meyer. Yay!
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I'm so excited you're here, girl.
Me too. It's an honor. I don't very often get to be the guest on E360 TV. And so thank you for inviting me.
Yes, of course. And honestly, like, just so our audience knows, I've been learning with Julie Ann over the last several months now, and her and I actually had the opportunity recently to get together and have dinner. And so we just connected. Do you ever meet that person and you just really connect on such a level? You're just like, where have you been my whole life? So I'm not going to attest that to Julie Ann, but that was my point of view for her.
For me too. I mean, it's one of those rare things where you just meet someone, you're like, there you are. I've known you. I don't know how I know you, but now we're finally actually meeting. And it just is so natural. And there's so much alignment. And when you're blessed to meet somebody like that, you just hold on.
Yes, definitely. And so her and I, we were talking actually today, and I was sharing with her about this topic that we wanted to discuss as far as becoming who you're meant to be and your transformational journey. And we started to kind of reflect on that word called shedding. And it was really about shedding our past and becoming who God has positioned us to be, where in our life we're supposed to go next. And her and I just had this realization that everything was meant to happen the way it's going to happen. And so I wanted to touch base on this with you because I know you know, because I shared it with you. I launched a new program called Mindset Mastery, and it was to transform your inner power. And I haven't had a chance to really share it live because, I was prepping for it with my team. But ultimately, it's building and the transformation of your inner spirit. Mm-hmm. So where I say inner power, it's inner spirit. And we were talking about how it came about. And I was like, well, girl, let's talk about it because we went through so much stuff. And I want to hear your own journey of getting you to where you're at today and the hurdles and the struggles that ultimately had you just changing and shedding to become the person that you are today.
Well, thank you. There's been a lot. I've been like, I don't know, maybe 8 people in this one body, and so many so many different iterations of who I've been. And the thing that, I think shedding is so important to really step into who you're becoming, but also honoring with respect who you were. And it's not about ignoring or pretending that she didn't ever exist. It's about thank you. And now what's next? And for me, it could be an extremely painful experience. People don't ever talk about that. It's kind of like, even if you get exactly what you want, it can still hurt because you're giving up something of what you're used to or how you view the world or pieces of yourself that have served you until now. And for me, it's always been, okay, well, I'll just say yes to the next thing and then figure it out as I go. Like, who do I need to be in order to do this or become this or be this? So that's kind of how I kind of look at it. I hope that.
Yeah. No, of course. And you and I were talking earlier, and I remember telling you, I'm like, you actually have to be okay with who you're going to become and what that's going to look like for the people that are around you. And if you're going to allow it, because how many people won't step out of that comfort zone, to go to their next level?
Well, you bring up a point that nobody really talks about, and that is being okay with walking away from
Yes.
the people that no longer are in alignment with who you are and who you're becoming, who are not energetically there with you. It doesn't mean that you love them any less or that you don't appreciate them, but they're not always going to be along for that part of your journey in that part of your life. And it can be really painful because they won't understand you anymore. And it can be, I don't know. It's just, are you willing to let go of that? Are you willing to let go of the people and places that no longer are in alignment with who you're becoming and thank them, but keep
Yeah.
moving forward? So
Yes.
it's tough. It's so tough, right?
It is tough, and it's funny because I'll bring up a story once. It literally hit me like smack in the face right now. It was several years ago. It was probably about 5 years ago, and one of my really good friends, her and I traveled to San Diego, and I remember us being in our hotel room, and again, I still love on the people that I've grown with, and in that retrospect. But I remember her telling her specifically, like, I'm scared to move on to my next chapter because it means that I'm moving away from you.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Like that, like I remember that so clearly.
Wow.
And I remember her being very like, well, kind of like, that's okay. But it's, you know what I mean? She didn't tell me anything in a sense of like, that's bad and that's, so forth. It was just kind of like, well, it's okay. Like it was okay. But I remember the impact that it had on me
Mhm.
and how it affected me emotionally. And the thing is, like, we talked about this earlier, like it's a very lonely place to be an entrepreneur, to go through this shedding process of friendships, relationships, intimate relationships, career, you know, um, your business. So as you are shedding all of these different past outlooks of who you thought you were to grow into who you're becoming,
Mhm.
it is a lonely road. You are not by yourself. So not by yourself. And that's ultimately where you and I really had that understanding of like, I see you, I know what you're going through, we've been there, and how can we support you?
Exactly. And for me, it's a matter of holding space for one another, whether or not we understand. And, I love that your friend was so cool
Yeah.
with you basically saying, this is scary, and for her to be accepting, because a lot of people would be mad and say something like, oh, so you think you're better than me, or
Right.
and that kind of thing comes up, and it really I mean, it's unexpected, and it's usually not from the person you expect it to
Right.
come from, that
Right.
attitude, and sometimes it's relatives, so it's like you can't even get away really, because I mean, it might be your parents, it might be a sibling, it could be, your best cousin. I mean, it could be anybody. But here's the thing, what do you have in common now?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that, you can share on the past, but sometimes it's better to limit that time with those people when you are changing and stepping into something new. I just can't believe she said that. I'm so happy for you that she was there with you while you're going through that transition, because like you said, it's lonely.
It
It is.
is.
It's lonely.
Oh, there were multiple times. Like I remember calling a friend of mine who I was in business with, and I remember just bawling in my car, just absolute tears falling down my face.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "What's wrong?" And I was just like, it's just awful.
Yeah.
I am going through this process of growth of my journey in entrepreneurship, and there is nobody to talk to. Absolutely nobody. I couldn't have this conversation with my mom. I couldn't have this conversation with my dad, with my brother, with my best friend. Like nobody close to me understood the impact of what I was going through, except my friend. I mean, he was there as, as much as he could be.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you just need somebody that has been through it, who's ahead of you and knows how to get you through it.
Exactly. Like, oh my goodness, yes. And that's why having a coach or a mentor is so important. And it's okay. And that's the thing too, nobody ever talks about, is when you outgrow that coach or that mentor. And
Yes.
it's a breakup, it's just it's it's so sad, but it doesn't mean that you don't value each other. It's just, okay,
No.
I'm ready for my next teacher.
Yes.
And it should be like that, but it's kind of like when you leave your home at 18 or whenever.
Yes.
You're supposed to, but it doesn't mean it isn't sad.
No. And I love that you nailed that on the head. It's like a breakup. And it's like, you've learned, my coach said, you can only go as far with your client as you've gone in
Mhm.
growth. And it's 100% true. So it's like when we think about, this, and again, I love those therapists out there, psychologists that have gotten the degrees, the whole bit, and some of them are really good. But as far as therapists trying to help you, if they haven't gone through a mindset of shift in
Mhm.
order to help you recover from what it is you're trying to recover from, they can only take you so far. And
Yeah.
that's where it's like, I really want to touch on that, because you have to have had somebody, a coach, a mentor, somebody who's been there, who's gone through it, who's excelled in it,
Mhm.
to show you and guide you and pull the ropes with you.
Exactly. And the other thing too that I want to mention is this idea of strangers, because there's or maybe acquaintances. You never know what lesson you're going to learn from the most unexpected source, but you've got to keep your eyes open, your ears open, because there are some profound things that I have learned, or people that have been there for me when I was expecting it to be somebody in particular and they weren't there, but there was always somebody else who was able to walk in and be there in that position, and it was always a stranger or somebody I barely knew, and they helped me through those particular moments that were exceptionally hard, whether it was a breakup, like when I lived in Italy and my boyfriend and I broke up and I'm by myself now. All my American friends went home. Now I've got nobody, and it's a 9-hour time difference. So who can I talk to, et cetera, et cetera. It was basically strangers that took me under their wing and made sure I was okay. So it's the same idea when it comes to anything, because you just never know who's going to fill the role that you need. So keep your
Yes.
eyes open.
And it's true, because there are times where I've been at a low point in my life, and people I look up to reach out
Mm-hmm.
and let me know what an amazing job I'm doing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
falling out of like control and things happening, like, the chaos that they don't see. But it's like, they know, I know they know. Well, my mentor even told me, he goes, I know what you're going through. I've been
Mm-hmm.
there, and this is what you need to focus on. Stay here and you'll be you'll do extremely well. So I've been following exactly what he said over the last 2 to 3 months, where people are telling me, oh, you should do this. Oh, you should do that. And I'm like, I used to be that person, like, squirrel, let's go to the new thing. But I've been really adamant and intentional about staying in my lane. I'm staying in my lane.
I love that.
So yes.
I really want to point something out for everybody that's watching, and that is that something about you, and this is going to be me giving you flowers right now. And that is even today, before we were on a business call, I shared something with you, and when the end of the call happened, because we had to start, you took that extra moment to check in with me after everybody else hung up, to make sure that I was okay. And that little extra check-in, which probably meant nothing to you, really meant the world to me. So I love that you practice what you preach, and that you are a great mentor, because it only takes 2 seconds to help change the trajectory of somebody's day.
Oh, thank you. And no, it did mean a lot to me. When we jumped on the call, and nobody was there, and we got to really share quickly. I knew there was something. And so I wanted to make sure that you were good. And like I said, with the minute we met, I was just like, what? I'm moving with you? Okay. There was just this love, this automatic love and connection that I had. And again, it's rare that you find that automatically with people. And when you do, it's just profound. And I really tie into that, and I hold on to that. And then again, it's not that I wouldn't do that for anybody. I just happen to see and know that space because I've been there, as far as there's some similarities in it. And I just wanted to make sure you knew you weren't alone.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, all right. But thank you for sharing that, for giving me flowers. I was like, you guys want to give me flowers and stars? I'll take the stars too. Just hit those stars, those star buttons. But I took a little bit of notes, and I wanted to share the reason. So you had told me, I said, this program is new. It's something that God had put on my heart to do. And one of the things you said was just how it came about. And I'm like, well, funny story. Want to share with you all. But it really is, because not only did I go through what I went through as far as, becoming NLP certified. And then during the process of becoming NLP, I was told I was ADHD. And then I went into that spiral. But really understanding, this is like another show topic that I would like to discuss, is the labels that are put on people and how debilitating it is. And girl, we can get into a whole, you know what? I'm just going to have to bring you back, because that is a show topic that I've been wanting to do. And I think that topic, you and I really could dive deep into that. So stay tuned for a future show with me and Julie Ann. But, going through those emotions and going through that growth and that shedding, and really surrendering to God's plan in my life, I had to let go of so much of the ideas, of the thoughts, of the people, of who I was allowing in my space. Okay. Now, it's funny, because God will not use the perfect. He will not use the perfect Christian, whatever person. He will not, because I promise you, I am not your perfect person. I'm so not your perfect person. To the point where he keeps dragging me back and putting me down and saying, okay, are you going to listen now? And I'm like, so we've been going back and forth. And so finally, let me share this past weekend. Okay. I literally am not that person that sits with God every single morning. Again, I have my faults, but my goal is every single morning. But there's sometimes I'm like running out of the house chaotic. But he always brings me back where I'm like, okay, God, I'm here. Let's go. I know you got it. I know you're going to bring this out. Let's do it. Like, I'm here for you. What is it that you want me to see? No, understand. I am yours. I surrender. Let's go. So he's like, all right, boom. So he goes in, takes me into Exodus. I want you all to read Exodus because it's funny, this certain area. And I have to get my glasses because, of course, the Bible is like teeny tiny. But he brings me into Exodus 3, where it's like him and Moses, right? So I'm going to take you through these areas. So I'm laughing as I'm highlighting and laughing as I'm going through this with him, by the way, because I'm always laughing with him. He cracks me up. So he's like, I have certainly seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. His people in general, okay? Mm-hmm. He's like, yes, I'm aware of their suffering. And then he basically is telling me he's utilizing me to help the people. Mm-hmm. And I respond, well, who am I to appear before them? Okay, or Pharaoh. Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt? Who am I? Right? God answered, I will be with you. And this is your sign that I am the one who has sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God at this very mountain. I laughed. I really did. And I just like had a conversation with him. I'm like, God, they're not going to believe me. This is kind of funny that you're doing this. And then he says, what if basically if I go to the people, the God of your ancestors has sent me, they will ask me, what is his name? And then he says, I am who I am. Mm. So in my course, I put, I am ready. And I'm like, that's to him. And then he says, say this to the people of Israel, meaning say this to the Christians, the people who know mm-hmm. the calling. And he's like, say Yahweh. And I was like, come on. I'm like, you gotta really share all that with me. Like, it just sounds outrageous. Okay. But like you said, Julie Ann, right? What did you say? You're like, to the right people, it won't.
It won't be crazy. It won't be outrageous. It will just be thank you. Thank you for showing up. Yeah. You know, it's interesting too. I think that we totally underestimate ourselves all of the time as to what we're capable of and right. who we're affecting. And, you know, just because we don't always get told doesn't mean that there aren't people watching. So
yeah,
I always think about that. Like, you know, what seeds am I planting under trees that I'll never be under the shade of?
Mm. But that's it. I think that's where it all comes to light, is that what seeds are you planting that you won't be under the shade of, but because you've already experienced his glory of it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And
exactly.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way. And that comment leads me into where we're headed next, because the thing is, this is also why this came about, is the suffering of the people. Mm-hmm. So the suffering of the people is the emotions, the reactions of having that, not knowing how to control one's emotions to life, to circumstances, to people. And where it's coming up in such a larger level is knowing who we are because of who we associate with.
You know, it's interesting too, because there's a saying that you're like the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And I remember thinking, well, what if I'm all by myself most of the time? Because I'm an entrepreneur. And then,
same, girl. That's why we have this alignment.
I know. And that really stuck with me. And I thought, wow. And then I heard a coach who's actually a host on E360 TV. He was speaking at an event that I was at. And
Okay.
he said, if you are your own company, then you need to get more company. Because, and I just thought, wow, because we don't live on an island by ourselves.
Right.
And, we do need to learn and grow. So it's a lot easier when you're with people because they can show you things that you haven't been able to see on your own, whether
Yes,
you like it or not.
it's so true. But see, the thing is, like, that is that area of that growth mindset. What's happening with our people that are suffering is they're allowing outside people, situations, environment to control
Mhm.
who they are and to, respond in a way that's not ideal. And that's where it has impact. And that's where it's like the suffering comes in. And go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking too, because I just recently, well, today read about a social media influencer who committed suicide because her numbers were going down. And she was like a lawyer and she was completely intelligent, had a lot of loved ones, and she got completely consumed by Instagram. And it made me think about, I mean, that's a really dramatic example. However, uh it's very accurate in how we do life. It's kind of like, why are we I would never go to a homeless person and ask them for advice on how to invest my money. So why am I taking on what other people think of me, that it's their opinion really is none of my business? So, I think that also lends to the suffering as well, is who are we actually paying attention to and letting them affect us? Because you're right. We are reactive as a human race, especially Americans. So that might be an
It's a whole topic.
unpopular thing to say, but I have lived in
I go,
other
girl, that's a
countries.
whole topic.
Yeah, but and I'm not even trying to mean that in a political way. I'm
No,
just
yeah, I
literally
know.
saying, we as a culture tend to be more reactive, and I think what you're doing is, with your coaching too, is putting that power back inside that person instead of them handing it out to everybody. And I think
Right.
that that is a truly remarkable way to start moving forward, because and it's 100% where you have got to start taking responsibility for everything that happens. It might not be your fault, but you're responsible for it. So if it's in your life, it's in your face, you're responsible for it.
100%. And that you nailed it. And that's the hard pill and the hard truth for people to swallow because they're not there in that space of knowing, of
Mhm.
that awareness. And, you know, believe me, we all didn't know at some point, just like you and I were talking about earlier about, well, we had to learn how to walk, right? We stumbled and then we got back up and did it again. It's the same thing in life. We have to learn how to process through these emotions, how to process that everything in our life is happening for us, not
Mhm.
to us. It's happening for us. And really understanding that the people that we're attracting, good or bad, is
Mhm.
a reflection of who we are.
Mhm.
And that's why it is so important to understand where we're at as a person so that we can then say, hey, I want to show up as this type of person. I don't want to be angry anymore. I don't want to be sad anymore. I don't want to be lonely anymore. I don't want to be insert comment here,
Mhm.
because it really is a reflection of who we are. So if you're, and I don't even mind saying it politically, if you're one sided and this person is one sided and you're both angry at each other, you're both reflecting each other.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, it's really that mindset and that thought process of like, who you are is who you attract.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you find yourself consistently attracting what is no longer serving you, what action are you taking
Mhm.
to change that? Because if you're not changing, you're choosing to stay in that space.
It's interesting, and I feel compelled to share this, but I'm going through a really difficult time right now personally. And so sometimes when I'm, really struggling, especially late at night when I can't really call anybody, I'll go on to Chat GPT and I will like talk. I named her Ruby, and Ruby and I have these conversations. And she said something that I thought was truly remarkable. She said, and this could apply to anything, staying, you think that you're preserving the love that you have by staying, but you are actually eroding it. So, and I thought that because you were meant for more.
Yeah. Hey, I love that plug, girl. Because you were meant for more.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. And, for anyone watching, if you're joining us live or even on replay, we want to know, ask questions. What is it that you're going through? Share any experience because we want to be able to support you where you're at. And we have a comment. Oh, Sylvania, so sweet, family friend. I love your growth. You're so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm like, oh, that was sweet. Thank you. Thank you. But you're right. It's something that we I heard from a friend today who basically shared that if they're not happy, why continue?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, find out why you're not happy. Is it a reflection of something that maybe that's internal that they're holding on to? Because you just never know. Having two people in conversation, one could be talking in a way that makes sense for them, and the other one could be talking another way that makes sense for them. But together, if they actually understood what each other was saying, they could realize that, oh, we're on the same page then. You're just saying it differently than
Yeah.
I'm receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's ultimately what it is. And it's really understanding the communication style or the thought process as to why that's affecting someone, why
Mm-hmm.
you felt like your feelings were hurt. I mean, we can go deep into all of this.
Yeah, I mean, communication in general is an entire topic, and it is tricky, tricky, tricky because not only can you have an intention of how you want something to come across, but people are also listening through their filters. People are hearing you through what they're going through that day. So you can be saying something and they can hear something completely different. I mean, think about text messaging. It depends. Like I could say the same thing. There's certain people in my life that will say, because I'll read them something and they're like, I just love the accent that you gave them or the attitude that you gave them when you were saying that.
Yeah.
That's how I heard it,
Yes. I'm a communications major. And one of the biggest things I've said is do not in any circumstance argue via text.
No, definitely not.
Because I'm probably laughing in my head saying da 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 da, and they're like, "What? How could you?" Blah blah
Yeah.
blah.
So
Where you,
rude.
yeah, so rude. And I was like, "Oh my god, I promise I wasn't." But ultimately, something came up recently for me in my business, and it was completely my fault. When you talk about taking 100% responsibility, I absolutely do. I know when I'm at fault. And we had a game yesterday. We went away to the Dodger game for women's night. Women's night was at Dodger Stadium yesterday. Had a blast. They won 12-2 against the Marlins. Woo! 15-2. Oh my goodness, it was so funny. So, anyways, I was in charge of the tickets, and everybody who came, I always know who they are that show up. And but this particular time, there were two women I didn't know, and so I came down to the final day of like, I got to get your tickets out. And then she's like, I ordered two. And I said, okay, no problem. Let me check. Mondays are my crazy busy day. 9 p.m. rolls around. I'm just finishing up my mastermind call. That's how crazy my Mondays are. And she's like, are you going to send them? I hope this isn't a scam. And I was like, oh my goodness. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I felt extremely embarrassed because look at the type of reflection I portray of who, somebody thought I was. And how did that show up in my life? And how did I attract that? So then it was a reflection that I had to sit with and be like, where in my life is this continuing to show up? Where
Mhm.
my life, do you know what I mean? And so I was like, that was completely my fault. I fell short there and I took 100% responsibility. And so I was really hoping to meet her to apologize. And I was like, are you joining us tonight? She's like, nope. I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. Understandable. And I said, no worries. I go have a wonderful night. Like that was my fault. I dropped the ball 100%. And so she responded how she wanted to respond, and I get it. So it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
But I
and
read it. I was like, nope, get out of here. I don't want to talk to you. So
but here's the thing I want to point out too is you lived through it. You lived to tell the story. And a lot of us are afraid to take responsibility because we're afraid of the nope. I mean, I'm not going to say it didn't hurt. I'm just saying though that you're still here to talk about it and live
yes.
to tell the story. And it's okay because we're not perfect. I've had
Yeah.
certain people, somebody wanted me to be in their book and kept missing the meetings that we were supposed to have. So by the third time, I said, you know what? Thank you so much, but no, thank you. I would, it's just not meant to be. And he comes back and he was basically begging me, for another chance. And I was thinking to myself, you had three. And I wasn't upset with him. I
Yeah.
just felt like it didn't work out for whatever reason. And I trust that.
Yes. Yes. And that's okay. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. When I see things that happen in that space where it doesn't work out, and
Mhm.
then, how many times have you reverted back to, oh, it's me? What if they don't like me? What
Yeah.
if, all these things? And it's like, wait a
Yeah.
second, that was a block from God.
Yeah.
That was a block of like your intuition of like
Yeah.
saying, hey, how many times have you tried to go past that intuition and it keeps like failing, 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 failing? You're like, okay, you know
Exactly.
what? I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, I love when now in my life, I'm stepping more into my own power and, um, trusting my intuition. My intuition is fierce. So, but I spent a long time ignoring it and
Oh, don't we
listening to
all?
other people that, it's taken me a while to get that muscle back where I trust it again.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of where I am now is like learning to trust that. And I just think that like with working with you, that you get that back, you get that or you grow it. If you don't feel like you've ever had it, it's there.
Yeah.
That power is in you. We're always looking outside of us for the things that are within us.
Yes.
And, and that goes back to full responsibility.
Right. And I mean, a lot of what we're going to go through in this course is really understanding the foundations of getting you to understanding who you are. So the
Mhm.
foundations of where you took on a limiting belief, where you took on this lack of self-esteem or your ego, whatever that may look like, because how you respond to people is going to ultimately decide like where you're headed. Some
Mhm.
of us want to be coaches, speakers, authors, entrepreneurs, CEOs, but there's something within our own space of not knowing how
Mhm.
to respond to situations where we continue to fall short in. So if you're looking for any type of growth, leadership, or where you're trying to, have that relationship with someone and you keep attracting that opposite or that wrong person, then let's look internally. Let's really focus on the deep inner work that
Mhm.
is bringing that foundation to a rocky platform, and that's where a lot of people get stuck because they're not willing to dive deep and to do that inner work. And that's where we uncover a lot of, moments like, I know where that came about. And I know when that happened. And a lot of it is going to go into what my coach has taught me is a lot of spiritual psychology type of foundations and
Mhm.
really going through the process of forgiveness, going through the process of, that scarcity versus abundance mindset and just evolving into so much understanding and so much faith over fear. that we're
Mhm.
going to uncover together. And it's just this mind-blowing experience because I went through it and I was like, oh. And there were times I was really mad, by the way.
Yeah.
So you
You're
may
gonna feel all the feels.
you may want to cuss me out. You may want to tell me to go somewhere. You will fight back. It's your subconscious, because our subconscious is is all about protecting us. Even
Mhm.
if it's not the best thing for us, it has patterns that are instilled, and it will always try to protect us first. So I remember the first time I went into training, and my whole body shook because my coach just broke me down the first or second day, I want to say, and my
Mm.
whole body reacted. And so I get that. I understand that process of shedding what is no longer serving you and how to not stay stuck in that space. But we get to do it in an intimate setting because I'm only taking 8 to 10 women in this course. And because I know, can you believe I'm grateful. 40%, I think it's 40 or 30. 40% of men follow me on E360.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it's definitely predominantly
Yeah.
women-centric,
My
so
my courses are always my marketing, and they know this, is predominantly women, but because I do get an overwhelming response from men, I really do. I have men reach out to me a lot more than women do.
Mhm.
I will open up a men's course that is fully solely focused on a men's group. I'm
Mm,
so open to that. So if that's something, because I mean, I want the women to stay in their space to be able to open up,
yeah.
authentically. And then I want the men to be in their space as well to open up, through their own willingness. So there's just a lot that's happening in this program, and it's a 12-week course, and we're going to dive deep into all of the things of spiritual, emotional shedding and growth.
Yeah, because that's the thing too is, the universe doesn't like an empty hole. It will get filled. So just because you get rid of something, you have to have something to put in its place. Otherwise, it will get filled with something. So why not be intentional about that?
Yes, exactly. And one of the things, like, I will get asked usually by people is like, so if like my emotions of anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, and like all of that goes away, do I not feel anymore? I start laughing. I'm like, no. I go, believe me, I had the same question. Um, you continue to feel those emotions, but they're not as strong, and you are able to control them a lot better.
Mhm.
So it's like it's the whole like how you respond versus react. So when somebody angers you or somebody jolts you in a way, like recently something came up for me and a family member, and like, all of us, we go into protective mode over like our parents, our brother, anything like that. So something came up and I was like, what? What? Who
Yeah,
said what?
mama bear comes out.
Mama bear comes out. Yes. And then I was like, hold up. How did I just give her my power? I'm
Yeah,
good. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
you ultimately learn how to love on people,
Mhm.
pray for them. They're going through their own journey. Everyone has their own map of reality. You get to be the bigger person. You get to be the more in line person. And you get to show grace to them all. And
Mm.
now I'll have people reach out and be like, but they don't get my forgiveness. They don't get this and they don't get that. And it's like,
Not
forgiveness
for
isn't
them.
about them. It's about you.
It's for you, it's not for them.
It's
Yeah,
for you.
absolutely.
100%. So if you want to show up in your most authentic and transparent, abundant, loving, caring, giving, fulfilling life, enlightened. Ooh, I got enlightened the other day. Somebody told me, they're like, you must have been enlightened. I'm like, I will take that. Because enlightened is a space that is just a beautiful space to be in.
Mhm.
It's joy, peace, happiness, love, and all the things in between. But I'm always growing. So it's not to say like, oh, I'm enlightened. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah, it's like health and wellness. Once you're let's say you need to lose weight, once you're done, that doesn't mean you go back to the way you were.
Yeah.
No, there's no end point.
There's
It's a
no
way
end
of
point.
being.
Yeah. You're constantly learning, you're constantly growing. Like you said earlier, like just because you work with a coach. And the thing is, like, as you work with coaches, like let's just say you're working with me. If we go to a certain level and I'm like, you know what? There's still some deep work that
Mhm,
maybe I haven't reached and I'm not getting you to that next level. I'm
mhm.
going to connect you with somebody who I know is going to break that. Does that make
Exactly.
sense? So
Yeah.
it's like you get to show up as your most authentic self, continuously learning, continuously growing, and continuously connecting with other coaches. And yes, like you said, I am never taken taken I don't take it to heart to say like, "Oh, you outgrew me." Oh, no, I'd be so proud that you
Exactly.
outgrew
That's a
me.
means you did your job well.
I did, yeah. I did, they did, it's just
Uh-huh.
I was able to get them as far as I've gone. And
Yeah.
then now it's time for you to progress with somebody else. Now, granted, you can't progress with that person that has gone more than I have until you've done the work before them.
Mhm.
So you really got to work on like, where are you at? Where do you want to go? Who are you connecting with? Where's your heart, your vibe, all the things. So,
Yeah, no, I love that. I was thinking about this whole thing about the emotions because, we don't say I am a broken arm. We have a broken arm. And I think, and it's like we take ownership of our feelings. I am angry. I am happy. I am, instead of observing it and letting it come through us and feeling it. But we just become it, and it
yes.
definitely that's when we start to lose, we go into reaction mode versus responding.
Yes. And it's funny. I love it because I was just on a coaching call not too long ago with my coach, and it was probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And something came up with my inner child, and I was like, "Oh, thought I worked on that already."
Yep.
And I got angry, and I was like, "Ah," because like, as a coach, I'm constantly growing, I'm constantly learning. But I just remember that feeling of like frustration. I was just like,
Yeah.
rah, I thought I worked on that. I thought I'm good. And the thing is, I never stop allowing myself to learn, to grow, to receive. Because
Yeah.
the moment you say, I know this, your subconscious blocks anything else out. It will
Mhm.
not receive anything new. So I'm always about receiving. And like, I can hear 10,000 speakers, but the speaker that says the wording and the phrase and the verbiage in the way that my brain will click,
Mhm.
that is what's going to move the needle forward. You
Exactly.
hear the same thing over and over again,
And,
you know?
that's the thing too that I think is great about coaching, is it's not just about sitting there and absorbing, it's about the action steps. What are you also doing? How are you participating yourself? I used to be a personal trainer,
Mm,
and we have a saying, "I can't do your push-ups for you." And, it's kind of like people tend to think that when they hire a coach or a personal trainer or a nutritionist, that's all they have to do and that's the end of their part. No, 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 no. We're there walking with you,
yes, we're
doing the
there to
things with you, but you still got to do
we're
it.
there to hold your hand, but you
Yeah, we're
actually have
there.
to put in the steps, the
Yeah,
action, everything.
you
Yes.
gotta do it, yeah,
Yeah.
so, and it's just that we're showing the way versus doing it for you, and that's where, people, I think, have this weird idea of what joy is, and it's not being comfortable.
Mm,
It's really not.
yeah.
Being alive, and part of that aliveness is really stepping into all the things that you're doing and feeling and being okay with it where you are.
I know. I know. And you do. I mean, it's the thing is like so many of us will settle at that
Mhm.
space.
It's easy to
It
settle.
is easy to settle. So
It's
many of us will settle in that space. And then don't get me wrong, it may look like sunshine and lollipops until your past or whatever you're holding on to comes
Mhm.
up and shows up again. And you're like, wait a second, why does this keep replaying in somebody else?
Mhm.
Until you address the actual problem, until you address what's been holding you back, it will still show up in your life, just in different objects, people, situations, and you'll know.
You
You'll
will
know. It's
know.
gonna slap you in the face, and you're gonna be like, "This is still coming out for me." The fun part is, it's happening to my son.
Oh.
I say fun because it's like I'm just waiting for him to like be like, "All right, I'm done." Like, what is this?
Uh-huh. Why do I keep doing this? Like, why
Yeah,
am I
I'm just like,
inviting this?
like I give him tips and like some tools and so forth to work on.
Mhm.
But it's, again, he's going to have to do that inner work or else it's going to
Yeah.
continue to show up. So I say it's fun because obviously, like, you know, as a mom, as a coach, you want the best for my son. I want the best for him. And then even my clients. So it's like when you start to see them shift
Mhm.
and to understand because they got frustrated with this particular thing happening in their life over and over again. And
Yeah.
they're like, okay, I'm done with this. Like, how do I change this? you know?
Yeah, exactly. And, they don't call it growing pains for nothing.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I know, right? Oh, wow. So okay, so yeah, I mean, one of the notes that I had put is how people come to be in your life, and I think we did touch base on this because I thought that was so important to know and to understand. It's
Yeah.
because if we're not shedding or if we're not releasing certain things that our subconscious continues to bring up to address, and we're not, the same situations will continue to happen.
It will. It
And
will.
so the last thing I wanted to share here was like the patience. You and I were talking about patience, temptation, and control.
Yes.
And how has control come up in your life?
Oh my goodness, it shows up all the time. It's all the time. Like I will make the safe choice because I want to feel in control and I'm afraid of feeling certain things or of failing or of succeeding. So I
Yeah.
try and control things in the craziest way. Like one of the things that people don't realize is like when we don't shed our old selves, we're trying to control because we know that that growth part, that stepping into the new, the flying through the the trapeze, the story of the trapeze where you have to let go one bar to get to the other one. You're flying through that air. There's nothing holding you there. It's scary. And that is not control. That's the opposite of control. So a lot of us stick there. We stick where we are. We don't shed the things of our past and who we were in order to become who we are because we want to control everything.
Oh my goodness, that is so true. And I was telling Julie Ann, I go, God has left me with three words, and it was like patience in my life. And
Mhm.
because there's times I run on like chaos, and I'm like, wait a second, he's showing me patience, of and control together, but really understanding that patience comes with like where he's taking me, where I'm headed,
Mhm.
and I want the things now. And how many of us like are open to that whole instant gratification of I got to have it now. And so
Mhm.
patience was really there. And then temptation. How many times have we been tempted to do certain things? And it's like I'm always tempted with that whole like the next shiny object syndrome. And I'm just like, temptation, I want to go over there. you
Exactly.
know and then the control comes up in my life all the time. And the thing is, like, the saying is let go and let God, not
Mhm.
hang on and figure it out. You know what I mean?
By yourself,
By
yeah.
yourself. One second, we got somebody that's coming in to comment. Oh, Sylvania, she's like the big three: patience, temptation, and control. 100%. This is really allowing God to have movement in your life by
Mhm.
sharing what he has in store for you, and to know that he's in control, not you. And I think that's so profound that people know and know that it's in their best interest. But like I said, it's the human in us that reacts to that control or just trying to figure everything out. And it's like we forget, and I do 100% forget to sit in silence sometimes, or forget to just say, you know what, God, not me, you, off my shoulders. Because
Yeah,
there's a
your
lot
best
of things
thinking got you where you are. So
what?
your best thinking got you exactly where you are.
Yeah.
I love that saying. I'm like, oh yes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And may have had some bumpy roads in between, but yeah, it definitely got me where I'm at. So yeah. But well, we're going to wrap it up, everyone. I'm so grateful Julie Ann was able to join us today. I appreciate you and your energy. I absolutely love it. So we're going to see each other every day in May, every day in June, and then we're good.
I love
good.
it.
We'll be good. So, but is there any way that anybody, like, they can connect with you that you want to share?
Julie Ann at e360tv.com. That's the easiest way to reach out to me directly.
Awesome. Yes. Julie Ann at e360tv.com. Awesome. And again, if you want to connect with Julie Ann, or if you want to know more about E360TV and what we're doing to really have a big impact into the online world, then definitely you can DM me. You can send an email to Julie Ann, and we're both here to support you. So, but thank you so much for doing this show with me. I'm so excited for you all to listen and find out more about the Mindset Mastery program. I'm going to go ahead and leave it on the screen really quick, but definitely visit my website, francineayala.com/mindset-mastery. Opt in, you'll be added to my email list. We'll talk more about, if you have questions about more about the program, but I'm here for you. I'm here to support you in all things. And I'm just grateful for every single one of you that is watching. I want to bless you all and know that you are loved, you are worthy, and you are so meant for more. And this is why it's so powerful. So thank you, Julie Ann. I appreciate you. And I'm so excited that you and I are connected. And I can't wait to see us grow together.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Have a good night wherever you're joining. Take care and be blessed.
I want to get to know what you do, what inspires you, what you enjoy. My ability to lead really impacts women on a larger level, because not every woman has the same story or the same journey. So understanding where they've come from and where they want to go helps me be the leader that I can, so that I can show up in a space of authenticity for them.